My name's Mohan. We've lived in this area of Oakwood for over 18 years now. I'm married, I've got 2 children. My wife is Bina, and the 2 girls are Azaria and Damari, 18 and 16. We moved from northwest London. My wife was from this area, North London. I was from South London, Croydon. I'm originally from Sri Lanka. Okay. And my wife is half from Sri Lanka, half from Uganda. My mother's originally from India. Right. And we came to faith in this church.
Okay, brilliant. So, just going back, so you grew up in Sri Lanka?
No, I was 3 when we came to Britain. Sri Lanka's had a civil war, which got worse and worse. It's now not there, which is thankful. And there's a lot of hope for peace between the main ethnic groups, which are Tamils and Sinhalese. We're Tamils. Yeah. So my dad saw the writing on the wall and brought us, me and my mum. My brother was born here in the 60s to Britain.
Right, okay. And when you grew up in Sri Lanka and then moving over from Sri Lanka, what was your faith when you were growing up? Were you a Christian background? Or?
No, not at all. My parents were passive Hindus. I think that's probably they would describe them as they'd been raised in Hindu backgrounds in Sri Lanka, and did the same here. They weren't very active in their faith. Mm-hmm. They didn't have any issues with us, me and my brother, going to school assemblies where there was Christian teaching. They didn't have any issues with that. They were raised vegetarians. They're still vegetarians. But they sent us off to have school dinners because they were relaxed about that too.
Yeah.
And they actually, interestingly enough, I mean, I'm being slightly wise after the event, they were raised in a neighbourhood where they had Anglican and Catholic friends in the Tamil community in North Sri Lanka. So, in fact, even growing up here, some of our Sri Lankan family friends were from different faiths, some from Anglican, some from Catholic backgrounds, but most were Hindus. So there was even a small tradition we would always have on Christmas Day that we would end up visit my parents' Sri Lankan Tamil Christian friends in London, and we'd normally have lunch with one of them. I don't know what impact that had, but there was something that felt it wasn't Christianity wasn't alien to me, right. Okay. But neither was I could I describe myself as having any feelings or faith or even much content.
Yeah. Okay. So if we met you as a teenager, would you thought yourself as a Hindu, or
you know, I'm not sure what I would have said then. Okay. I think I was. It's really hard how memory plays tricks on you, but I think I was becoming familiar with Christianity, and I started having some empathy then. Right. Partly, and I don't know if this is controversial, partly because of my politics. I started taking to this fact that this person that we're talking about, Jesus Christ, seemed to be associating themselves with all the dispossessed of the world. I mean, I'm thinking, right. These are all the people who even nowadays we'd think are a bit weird. He's hanging out with those guys. And that really struck home with me. And that combined also with the tensions in Sri Lanka. And it seemed to be the Christians who seemed to be the most vocal in terms of trying to challenge injustice.
Right.
And I don't want to overdo that, but I remember thinking, that's funny, they're doing that. You don't really hear much from the Hindu priests about this stuff. They seem to be very let's let it all be, and it's how it is, and we just let it be. And I remember thinking, this strikes me a little bit. And at the same time, I remember thinking, all those radical churches in South America who seem to be battling against injustice too. I mean, they tend to be Catholic churches. And I kept thinking there's something going on there which I don't quite get. Okay.
And so you said just before then it was at this church that you came to faith. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that started? What was what kind of were the kind of original seeds that started that?
Yeah, so Bina's story is great, and I'm partly on her coattails, and I'm so thankful for that, right? So, but ask her about that on another day. But my story is, I had some empathy towards Christianity, but I tended to take, if you'd pushed me, I would have said all paths lead to God. Mm-hmm. It's fine, you do your thing, we're all good, we'll all live happily. I would have thought that. And nothing like having kids to start making you think deeper about these things. And we started having conversation around what's the moral upbringing that we have for our children. What do we want them to be rudderless? No, I don't think so. So we started thinking about this, and Bina started saying, I think we should explore looking at the churches, because we feel more aligned to that than certainly Hinduism or any other faiths. So we started coming here Christmas Eve, actually.
Right.
Carols around the crib service. And it sounds really trivial, but one of the things that really struck us is when we walked in here, and the vicar, I'm not sure either of us had known any vicars before, we were really struck that the vicar seemed to know all the children's names.
Right.
How does that happen? What they're like friends. They know each other. And we came the next day and we started thinking about this a lot, actually.
So how long ago was that? Do you know? What year?
Oh my gosh, the children were about 3 and 1, so that was about 15 years ago.
Okay,
15 years
about 15
then.
years.
So,
Yeah, okay,
and we started coming here. We started thinking about what does this mean, and we started hearing about something called baptism and so forth. We had a word with Christopher about that. And Christopher gently, maybe not so gently, but it felt gentle at the time, challenged us saying, well, where are you in your faith? And if baptism's a serious thing, if you guys want to do this, I can do all of you. I wanted to get concerned with the logistics of the operation, and he said, don't worry about the logistics. You worry about your beliefs and faith. I'll worry about logistics as well as your spiritual journey.
And do you remember how you felt when he said that to you?
A bit of intrepidation, but a sense of, this is it, this is good. And then, quickly we went to, how do we share this with our families? Because we're close to our families, right? And, we'd love to share this with them. And Christopher also challenged us on that. He said, look, this is an opportunity. You're making a statement to God. You're also making a statement to those around you. Are you ready for that?
So if I just pause you there. So when you're having those kind of conversations with Christopher, you'd been coming for how long have you been coming to church for at that point?
By then, maybe about a year and a half.
Okay. And so you'd begun you had a good understanding of the Christian faith?
Yeah, Bean had done a Christianity Explored course. Okay. I'd done another one with a bunch of folk here, some of whom are obviously dear friends of mine still. And you started seeing the differences. I started seeing much as it was a path of least resistance, that this all paths lead to God thing doesn't flow. We can't all be right. And then you start having to say this.
Why did you think? What brought you to that conclusion? Do you remember?
Because, well, faith is saying different things, and Christianity was saying something to do with, it ain't what you do. It's around, someone else has paid your price for stuff that you've not done well in life, or you've been further away from God, and that striking me as really different. I mean, I still feel really powerful, and I still think not enough people, even in a country like this, get this, that it ain't what you do. It's all around, as we understand now, Jesus Christ dying for us, and that is really powerful because it's so different. I mean, it's so radical, actually, to what other people believe. There are many other sources of common cause we can find, but this one we can't.
Right. And when you were hearing that, particularly for the first time, were you struggling with that? Were you enthralled by it, or do you remember how you were feeling?
No, that's penny dropping moment, really.
Right.
I don't think I would call that struggling. I thought, right, the implications of this means that I totally admire, applaud people search for meaning. We're all in that boat, and I totally get that. And there are some common causes we can find, but the notion that says we can earn our way there, we can get our loyalty points to get there, doesn't follow, doesn't accord with our sense of the world now. Right? And then on another level, I've had a pretty decent academic background. If I wanted to come at this from an intellectual curiosity point of view, the Christian story stacks up, right? The emotional thing does it for me, but even on the intellectual level, the story stacks up. I'm saying to people, just look at facts. On so many levels, I mean, that stone didn't move by itself, right? When Jesus, and if you really wanted to tell a story that you wanted to run and run and run, you wouldn't have had, sad to say, women as the first people who saw Jesus alive, right? That was not a guaranteed way to make your story run and run. And so all these things stacked up to start saying, even on factual grounds, this held true, but emotionally it also held true because it reconciled myself to how I saw the world, that we're all trying to do the right trying to think we're not right with God and how do we make ourselves right with God, and it's a futile task. And with lots of non-Christian friends of mine who I trust and have a good relationship, I often say to them, in a slightly provocative term, it's like you having a nectar card or a loyalty card, but you don't even know how many points you've got to get, right? I mean, you're being done. At least I'm comfortable now that it says this is not about a loyalty card system. It's not like I've got to do, whether it's pray a number of times a day, or I've got to see some old ladies across the road, and I've got to, that these are somehow earn my points to get there. And I now get that isn't nothing to do with it. And I somehow struggle with the fact that even in a society has such a strong Christian heritage, people don't get that.
Great. So then going back to so Christopher was talking to you about baptism, and you were now at the point where you'd understood all, you'd have taught yourself as a Christian by then?
Yes, yeah.
And so then, as you were thinking about that, you're thinking about the issues, the impact upon the family and so on. So tell us what happened then.
So we had baptism, and my folks and Venus folks came along, and they were really very supportive, actually. And sometimes I wonder what would happen if they were less supportive. We could have had more of an argument. And one of the challenges, I think, particularly those who come from a varying degrees of Hindu faith, is they are so laissez-faire about life. You can't have an argument. You have to try and say, it's not, we're not all thinking the same thing. There are some similar things around moral code, but beyond that, we're in a different place. But neither are we, as Christians, saying we're somehow better. This is open to all, right? Yeah. We're making a virtue of the fact that we recognise our hypocrisy. Right? And I think that's really powerful, and somehow we've got to get across. Anyway, so my folks have continued to be very supportive, and Venus folks. And Venus' mum's come to faith subsequently here, which is an amazing journey in itself for all of us, including her. And everyone comes at this with a different lens, but a lot of the thinking I have around my relationship with God comes with the stories we think about in terms of us as parents, right? So, especially on this isn't about the point scoring stuff. I was thinking, well, I love my children. I think my children love me, and I hope my children will want to do great things, because it's not because they're earning points with me, but because they know I'll feel great about it. And there are times where they might disappoint me, but I'm still loving them. And all of this is how we have come to understand our relationship with God. These things become clear. That's why we say a loving Father, right? A loving, for me, the parallels with parenthood are so powerful because it makes God not distant, and it makes my increasing desire to try and do right, not because of I'm just wanting to please God rather than store up some points.
Yeah. So from those years ago, you became Christian, baptised, and really got this idea that Christ has done for you all that's needed. And so that, as you're saying, shapes your relationship with God. You think of him as a father who loves you. How's that impacted your daily life now?
A lot. I'm in a job where I'm able to talk to people all the time. I'm a headhunter, so I find senior people to play roles with my clients, which means I'm asking people to consider something they weren't thinking about beforehand. So I end up getting people to open up a certain level of vulnerability that I put there, frankly. They're usually happy doing what they're doing until I ring them up. And so there's an element of sharing around what people's drivers are, what's important to them, what for their family circumstances. So I find it really easy, actually, to have a level of exploration around where we are spiritually. And as my faith has grown, I felt that even more easy to do. And I take a lot of comfort from that. And I've become more confident about sharing that. And my experience has not been that people have looked at me weirdly, or looked at me, or sometimes people looked at me slightly curiously, maybe had a couple of extra questions, and I'm comforted for that. And I think I'm learning not to be apologetic at all about where I'm coming from, especially because our club is one that everyone can join, right? So this is not some elite membership thing. So I feel all the more comfortable to say to people, well, as appropriate, this is what happened for us, this is what happens in my family, this is how stuff we do, which we think is normal. Sunday morning is the best part of the week. Why is that? Well, because we hear about God, we met a bunch of other people from very different walks of life who think the same. And nobody made us get here. We all showed up because we wanted to, and we all could have got a million other things to do, but we don't. We come here. I think it's fantastic. I don't mind saying that to people.